about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Hi, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So sadly, we have another college student who has been killed. And allegedly, the suspect was an illegal immigrant. Jose Medina, a Venezuelan national, had previously been arrested for shoplifting and released before the alleged murder, according to DHS. Now, most shoplifters don't stay in jail, but when you do have an illegal immigrant that gets arrested for committing a crime, usually they would get deported. Not this one, not during the Biden years. So we're being told by Fox News that the illegal immigrant charged with the murder of Loyola University Chicago student Sheridan Gorman entered the U.S. during the Biden administration before being apprehended and released into the country, according to DHS. Jose Medina is a 25-year-old Venezuelan national, was arrested previously for shoplifting in Chicago, and now is currently being quarantined. Also is being quarantined because he has possibly tuberculosis, according to Chicago Police Department. Remember I told you that Alejandro Mayorkas had said that I think 3 out of every 5 or 2 out of every 5 immigrants coming in have a medical condition. And people were wondering, well, what are we talking about? Hepatitis, cholera, whatever. And I think a good number of them might be tuberculosis, which is why in many Latin American countries they vaccinate for tuberculosis because tuberculosis is higher and more commonly spread. We don't vaccinate against tuberculosis because I think its efficacy is not as, I think it's about 50%. It's still a good vaccine. But many people we could barely get people to consider the flu vaccine, let alone, the tuberculosis vaccine. It's expensive, and it just America hasn't considered it. They might have to, if we're seeing more and more tuberculosis cases because of people coming into the country. But he is currently being quarantined because of possibly tuberculosis. A police source told Fox News that the shooting Thursday was an apparent ambush. The gunman was wearing a mask and face covering. They believe he lived in Chicago's Rogers Park neighborhood. And they have recovered a firearm believed to be connected to the killing. They're awaiting the results of the gunshot residue test. And he has been formally charged with murder of shooting the student. He is facing 6 felony charges, including a count of first-degree murder. 1 count of first-degree attempted murder, 3 counts of aggravated assault involving the discharge of a firearm, 1 count of aggravated unlawful possession of a weapon. And he was apprehended originally by Border Patrol in 2023, but released. He was later arrested in Chicago for shoplifting and released again. And so, U.S. ICE has announced that it lodged an arrest detainer and called Governor Pritzker and Chicago sanctuary city leaders to not release him after this alleged murder. From what we understand, we don't have a lot of details of what happened. The family is, of course, in absolute shock. They say, "We are faced again with the unbearable truth. Our daughter's life was taken, and our family will never be the same. Sheridan was the heart of our family. She had a rare ability to bring people together, to make others feel included, understood, and loved. She lived with intention, with faith, and with the kindness that defined who she was every single day. She was just beginning her journey, so much ahead of her." And so from what we understand, she was with friends. And then he comes out and attacks. I'm just shocked that something like this could have happened. And the students, she's only 18. They shouldn't feel like they can't walk around. I think this was broad daylight. She was walking with friends near Toby Prince Beach Park, less than a mile from the university's Lakeshore campus. It was early March 19th. Man walks up to the group and shoots her. From what we understand, doesn't know her. This is just random. Just like that young girl that was the Ukrainian woman who was on a train where just somebody randomly decides to stab her. Remember, when these individuals have mental illness, they're not going to think like normal people do. And they may just randomly want to kill. So having somebody, unfortunately, in this country, I know people, the Democrats are saying, oh, man, well, there's more murders happening by U.S. citizens than, yes, on the whole, in terms of the numbers, yes, there are more murders done by U.S. citizens, but we don't want any more numbers. We want to prevent every single number. And an illegal immigrant coming into this country is preventable. Finding these individuals and deporting them is a preventable way to prevent any future possibility. And I'm not saying all legal, or I'm not saying illegal immigrants who have no criminal history are criminals, but ICE has a job to do. Whether it's the Canadian ICE, the Japanese ICE, the Mexico ICE, the Costa Rican ICE, their job is to ensure that the legal immigrants have a pathway and that their citizens are safe. And if you don't hear any Democrats speak out about how horrible this is, that's a problem. And then if you're a parent of a college student, what, you tell your kid not to go walking? We teach our kids, well, don't walk alone. Don't walk at night. Don't get drunk. But you're seeing these deaths happen when they're not alone, when they're just using public transportation, when they're exercising, doing a jog, walking around campus. Well, don't we want people to be able to walk? And unfortunately, there are individuals there. I mean, so how do you become less of a target to somebody with severe mental illness? I don't know the answer to that. No. But I pray for her soul and I pray for her family. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Let's face it, guys. We're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Dali Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So every year after the medical student residency match, I always get asked the same few questions. One is, why are there more medical students than residency positions? I'll explain it, but I agree that's ridiculous, which means some students are left out in the cold. And then, why is there a doctor shortage when we have tens of thousands of new students? There was I think 53,000 applicants. 53,000 people applied to the match. Now, some of them could also have been second year. You have PGY1, PGY2, PGY3, and then onward, especially if they're in surgery. PGY means postgraduate year. Most of the residency positions are for PGY1, your internship year or your first year. But so understandably, those 55,000 applicants might not all be brand new spanking graduating medical students, but still, that's tens of thousands. Yet we're still always in a doctor shortage. Are we seeing tens of thousands of doctors retire each year? We're seeing a lot, but not that many. So we'll talk about that. But basically, to recap what the match is, and this is why you see all these headlines. And for somebody like me in medicine, I'm always intrigued by it because I have a lot of students that I help and I mentor, and they all matched. I was really, really proud of them. Oh my God, oh, little baby doctors, so proud of them. But so basically, when you go to high school, then you go to college, and at college you apply to medical school, and then when you're in medical school, it doesn't end there. After you finish your medical school, or in your third to fourth year of medical school, you need to already start thinking, if not sooner, where you want to do your training and what you want to do your training in. Now, this is a very, very frustrating step, which is why I think we need to revamp the way we do medical schools, because your third year student who might have only had a couple rotations is already now being pressured to figure out what they want to do the rest of their life. And the average third year medical student is like, okay, I think I want surgery. I think I want medicine. I think I want, which I probably should have included in my book, The Depressed Doctor, because a lot of individuals feel forced to grab a specialty. Or if they go to a school that says really do primary care, you're probably not going to get into surgery or ENT, go more for primary care. They might be feeling forced to take a specialty that they never really wanted. And so, that could be a concern. And so by third year, you need to already kind of know what you want to do and start applying, so that early fourth year, your application is in. So before you do your electives, before you do a lot of your rotations, that you're already applying for a specialty that you still don't know as much as you want to about, but you got to kind of take the plunge. Then your fourth year, you do interviews and all that. And then you don't really know if you got in until match day. Now, match day has this big algorithm where you rank where you want to go, first, second, third, etc. And then the schools or the programs, which are affiliated with hospitals, teaching centers, decide how they want to rank you. And then based on how that matches, you get a position or not. On Monday of match week, students who matched and got a job and a position in a hospital for their postgraduate training, whether it's 3 years for family medicine or 4 years for pediatrics or radiology or ER, or although now there's some 3-year programs, etc., 9 years, 5 to 9 years for surgery, you get a letter saying you match somewhere. We are going to tell you where. It's a secret for the week, but you got a job. So students on Monday were like, I'm good. The students that didn't match get notified, and now they're scrambling. And they're like, wait a second. I went to medical school. I have $500,000 in loans for this school, and I don't have a job when I graduate. I don't get to, and you can't work as a doctor in America if you graduate medical school. You have to have a residency. And then you have to finish your boards. So if you graduate medical school, you could be really pooped out of luck. Your school is supposed to help you then get into a residency. So they look at positions that are unfilled. So let's say there's a program, and I know in Nevada there was a couple programs that didn't fill that well. Nevada struggled a little bit with their family medicine and their internal medicine. And I think they had like a PG2. There's data for each state. But still, they got good fills. But so then the students and their academic leadership have to find programs that didn't fill, where either students didn't want them or students ranked another program above theirs, so it didn't connect with the match. And then they say, look, I got a great student. They didn't match. Now, not all students that don't match don't mean they suck. Okay? It doesn't mean they're bad students. It could be the way they were like, well, I want surgery. And then the surgery programs are, few and far between. And so now they're like, well, wait a second, I want to do surgery. There's no surgery. So maybe for the first year I'll do IM or something so I get a good medicine base. So sometimes it could be that they're fantastic students. They just, didn't get into the way they ranked. And so then throughout the week, the academia tries to help these students find a spot. Students call as well. I've gotten asked to help and, make some calls and say, look, I got a great student here. They did this. They authored a book with me. They whatever. And then the last day, Thursday, is where they scramble. And then they scramble to try to find a spot. And then by Friday is match day, where everybody gets to open up their letters and they get to see where they go. And it's all exciting. Well, according to the data here, there were over 53,000 applicants, and they registered for about 44,000 residency positions. Okay, now if you do the math, you're like, okay, well then that means there's 9,000 students out in the cold. It wasn't that many, but yeah, there were. When you look at the math and the numbers, there was a bunch of students that didn't get into a residency position. 53,000 applied. Now again, it could have been somebody switching, from one program to another. Could have been somebody wanting to go back and redo another first year. But it implies that thousands of students didn't get in. And that number is up from last year. Now, how does that happen? Well, you do have residencies that could close. They could lose their accreditation. But the biggest issue is you have medical students that keep expanding their class size. So they keep taking in new medical students. Now, you wonder, why are they doing that if their student runs the risk of not matching? Well, if they are able to get that student in, they could claim a 100% match or placement rate. So you got to be careful when you choose a medical school, because you want to be matched or placed, but that placement suggests that some of their students don't match. And they, through that week of match week, get them in somewhere. But look, most medical students are like, I just want to know I have a job. I don't care about the semantics, whether I match on my own or I need a dean or somebody, pulling every favor they have to get me in. I just want a job. You don't see medical students sue like you see lawyers, law students sue their school. But it can happen where a student's like, wait a second here, you promised the world and I don't have a job. But when you do have a student that doesn't get in, now there are still some unfilled positions. I think there's still about 900 unfilled positions that I guess, and it might change by the time this broadcast is not live anymore and is playing on affiliates. But people always ask, why, what's going on here? Well, because they don't connect. The residencies in the medical schools, they're of different entities. These medical schools have their own, business model. And if they could prove that they could outcompete other medical schools to get their kids and their students and their baby doctors, into these residencies, they can then promote that. But these students are getting screwed. And match week is very, very stressful. If you don't match, you feel like you're, not to mention, by the way, even if you do match. I mean, here I was. All right. I didn't know where I was going to go. Was I going to be in California? I only applied to California, Nevada. But still, I just got married. I don't know where I'm going to be. And then when you do match, you only have about 2 months to get yourself moved and situated and find a place to live. By the way, you're still in school. So you still have to do school. And you still have to go through that process. And then you still have to graduate. And it's expensive because you're going back and forth and all that. It's a pain. The process could be better. It really could be. Now, in terms of the match, emergency medicine did better. Psychiatry did better. this year. Even in some respects, family medicine did better. In some respects, it didn't, depending on the states. I don't think the AI affected the match this year. It's going to. When students see that AI is replacing doctors, and many patients in that specialty are, that could be an issue. We did see visa students, some of that. Many of them maybe not match because some residency programs didn't want, if their visa expires, them to not have that student, that resident anymore. But it was a stressful week. Thank God a lot of students got in. But for those students who didn't get in, they're struggling. And the system has to be a hell of a lot better. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, don't go away. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So the sport of pickleball is taking the country by storm, and it's cool. It's cool. I know I had a little issue with it when the governor had a lot of businesses closed down during COVID, but opened up pickleball. And I was like, first, what the hell is that? and can you open up the dentist offices, please? We need dentists. I'm glad that there's pickleball, but I had no idea that pickleball was getting that popular. It was my students tell me, you got to play. This is good. This is good. So my students got me into it, and I was like, okay, this is actually pretty cool. Finally, my husband played, and he fell like 3 times the first game. And so I learned really, really early on that why pickleball injuries are on the rise. Pickleball injuries are soaring. We are talking about like a 95% increase in ER visits from the year 2020. Now, keep in mind, the injuries are going to soar because there's more people playing. So, there's more people are playing pickleball. Plus, now there's like courts, and so I live in a development in a community where they took out one of the tennis ball courts and replaced it with 4 pickleball courts. And I was like, okay, so now I can play pickleball every day if I wanted to at home. It's really cool. You just have to sign up, and I play with the kids and stuff. So when you see that the numbers are soaring, it's not that pickleball itself is getting more dangerous. Pickleball is still staying pretty constant. Pickleball, as I said, I think it was invented in the 60s. There was, I guess, a couple families on a trip, and the kids were bored, so the dads said, okay, guys, let's play like a game. So they grabbed some badminton stuff or some tennis stuff, but because the kids were younger, they lowered the tennis netting, and they kind of made up this game, and they called it, I guess, pickleball, not because one of their dogs was named Pickle. They named the dog Pickles later, but because I guess, like, if you have a boat that needs a whole bunch of stuff but doesn't have its own stuff, they call it, I guess, a pickle boat, where you go, okay, well, we got the first aid kit from here, we got the oars from here, we got the, and that kind of thing. So I guess that's where the name pickleball came from. We're going to throw a bunch of stuff together and make this a game. Well, apparently in the 60s, these families, other families were like, well, we want to play. How do you play? And then it just grew from there, and it became now pickleball. I don't know if they made money on it. I think they did. I think they did trademark it and all that. So why are injuries going up? Why is pickleball so dangerous? Well, if you've never played and you don't understand the rules, that could be an issue. The pickleball is a ball with holes in it, and I live in a very windy area. So I haven't fallen, luckily, with it, because when I fall, I can't get up. But one thing that I noticed early on is you're expecting, I played racquetball. I wasn't a big tennis player because I liked hitting the ball, but I was always hit it out. So racquetball was more my kind of thing. And with racquetball, you hit with a force and you know the ball, you learn the ball and you know how to anticipate it. But with pickleball, the ball is coming to you, but you got to understand wind speed. And what if wind gets in? So you're lunging, thinking it's going to hit. And I've seen that ball just completely make a 90-degree turn. And if you then pivot or shift, you could fall. Another issue is you have a lot of seniors that weren't really actively, they might have gone to the gym and done things, but they weren't really active in an outside sport. And all of a sudden they went from 0 to 90. So they went from working out in a gym or maybe even not working out to, okay, we're going to go play pickleball. Well, pickleball, that's not for the weak. I mean, pickleball is a sport and it could even be harder than tennis and racquetball. Because again, if you have that wind manipulation in the ball, because you're playing outside, an indoor court might be a little easier and you might be able to have some more predictability. But it's a court. Plus, I notice that you got to wear the right shoes because the flooring, the mat of the pickleball court, I think sticks. I don't know what it is. It could just be the one in my area. And I gotta figure out how to properly word this. But I feel like my foot plants and then it doesn't move. Again, I'm comparing it to racquetball because racquetball, everything was smooth. I really liked racquetball. And so with this, your foot might plant. So what are the most common injuries? Well, you're getting a lot of sprains. You're getting a lot of, so a sprain and a strain, different. Strain is where you hurt the muscle. Sprain is where you hurt the ligament. So you get some strains, you get sprains, falls. And if you're older and you're not very active and now all of a sudden you're falling for the first time, there's a good chance you could fracture. You have people with low bone density and that could also be an issue. So you might want to know your bone density first. And people are learning the rules. That's basically simple. With the serve, it can't be in the blue. It has to go to the opposite side, contralateral side, has to hit, it has to bounce. It has to, the rules make it simple. But for those of us that get a competitive edge, we're like, oh, hell no. Okay, we're not going to we're going to get this ball. And yeah, I know I rub it in too. Yeah, but it shouldn't be that dangerous a sport. But if you're not ready for it and you go on and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to play pickleball for the first time. You need to start out soft. You need to start out early. You also need to stretch. People aren't stretching. You always used to have to stretch before you played tennis, racquetball, football. How many older people are stretching? Now, it's not just older people. Younger people are doing it. And I'm seeing younger people fly and fall. But I think there's something to do, because I know everybody's saying, well, the numbers are higher because more people are playing and all that. That's true from an incidence level, but I think there's something with the matting of the court. I just noticed it's a different feel. And I'm going to change the shoes, but you have to put that kind of thought into it, where it just doesn't feel the same as the tennis court. Now, floor, it could also be it's a new flooring. It's a new, because with the tennis ball courts, those have been there for years. And if your pickleball court is 2 months old, it's going to be newer. And so that could be another issue. Maybe we just need to, and that could be the big difference. I just want to look into that before that's my homework for the day. I need to look into, is the pickleball lining court different in terms of material than the tennis? But all I notice is, for me, that's my Achilles heel. Because, and by the way, people are also hurting their Achilles. Yeah, Achilles. Good movie. I love the movie Troy. I'm sorry. Brad Pitt, Awesome. Troy was a great movie. I love Troy. But the Achilles, which is behind your ankle, a lot of people hurt that. And again, why? It's the planting. So I think what they need to do, and there's been studies looking at that, but I think we need to interview why is it that individuals are hurting themselves? Because I really want you to be careful. I can't tell you how many people said, yeah, I played pickleball, but I got hurt. And so I don't do it anymore. And maybe we need to train people. Maybe you need to take a course. There's courses in it now. Or just start out early. Just play around with hitting the ball back and forth. Maybe don't go into a full pickleball game. Maybe for your first couple plays, just bounce the ball around, have somebody on the other side, and just go back and forth hitting the ball. It's good exercise. It's good. I don't care if the ball goes out. That's my problem. One of the reasons why I keep losing pickleball is because the ball looks like it's about to hit the line. And by the way, this is another issue that I'm noticing as I'm older. My depth perception is different. I'm lunging, I'm reaching, and I'm like, I should hit that. Why aren't I? So if you're older and you haven't played a racket sport, don't hurt yourself trying to get the ball. Let the ball go. It's not worth it. A lot of shoulder strains, neck strain, back strains, but we don't want you falling on the pickleball court. All right. Emergency rooms are full. Urgent cares are full. And I'm hearing from orthopedists, I'm even seeing myself, patient calls up and go, you were playing pickleball, weren't you? All right. It's a good game. It's great exercise, but stretch, know the rules, and let the ball go. Don't lunge and get yourself hurt. 1-877 Dolly, don't go away.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Dahlia. As many of you know, I lost another colleague to suicide. And tragically, tens of thousands of Americans, including hundreds of physicians, take their lives each year. Why is suicide so common? Why doctors? Even medical students have alarming suicide rates. Nurse burnout is at an all-time high. Maybe it's the monstrous workloads we face every day. Maybe it's because of burnout, malpractice suits, online reviews. Medicine has changed so rapidly that it's almost unrecognizable to those of us who entered this field and wanted to take it by storm. But there's not a lot of resources out there for healthcare providers who deny that they are struggling or at risk. So my book, The Depressed Doctor, aims to change that for both the physician and medical student and anyone else who is struggling. Find The Depressed Doctor on Amazon or at drdahlia.com. And if you are currently struggling, call or text 988, the National Suicide Prevention and Crisis Hotline. Don't wait. The silence is killing us.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So OnlyFans owner, the person that is currently owning or owned OnlyFans, has died at the age of 43. Leonid Radvinsky apparently passed away. I don't think we know too many details except he had cancer. And he was only in his 40s. He is the current owner of OnlyFans. Director, majority shareholder. It was founded back in 2016, but I think he took over in 2018. Was only 43 years old. Robert Mueller also has passed. that had he was 81 years old. I don't think we know the cause of death, but unfortunately, he has passed. Nicholas Brendan, an actor who was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, has died. We lost Chuck Norris last week. Jordan Wright, another British reality television personality, also passed. And, many of you have kind of been asking me throughout the years, are we seeing a lot of younger people dying because of the COVID vaccine? There another actress, I believe, who worked with on Supernatural, Canadian actress Carrie Ann Fleming. She passed at the age of 51. There's a few things we have to take into account when we hear of these things. All right, it sounds like she died of cancer also, which is again horrible. And I know people have a lot of questions, and whenever somebody does bring up the COVID vaccine, you'll hear the left go, "Oh, they're conspiracy theorists, they're this or this." And me as a physician, I just want to make sure that the public has the answers they need, and that we're studying all possibilities. If we are seeing cancer on the rise, 50-year-old women dying of breast cancer was a lot more common when we didn't screen and we didn't have as many treatments. It can still happen. Somebody can still get, that's for somebody to have died at the age of 51 of breast cancer, that means she had an aggressive form or she got it when early. But we do know that happens. Sadly, it can. Same thing with colorectal cancer. We're seeing colorectal cancer happen in the younger generations and happening more viciously. Is it because they're sitting a lot, playing video games? Is it because they're obese? Is it because of the food and the fake food and ingredients that they're eating? Is it because they're ignoring issues that they're having because they're not going to the doctor anymore? They're just using telemedicine, if that. So, we are seeing trends. But when somebody brings up, do we think the COVID vaccine has any role in it? I don't mind when they bring that up. I hear doctors go, "Oh my God, everybody's blaming the COVID vaccine. Everyone's blaming the COVID vaccine." And yes, I have seen some people where, anything that happens, they blame the vaccine. Just like, remember, there were deers. There was some deers that died on the road and somebody put a sign saying COVID killed him. I get that that's what happened with politics, where everybody was, kind of manipulating data and numbers and all that. But on the other end, we are seeing a trend in younger individuals. Now, the OnlyFans owner, and this actress died of alleged cancer. Most of the COVID vaccine risks that were theorized and hypothesized to have caused early death were surrounding the cardiac aspect with the myocarditis, because we saw spike proteins embed, I guess, within people's myocardium and things like that. So if somebody said that they saw an uptick in early cardiac death in younger people, yes, junk food could still do that. The vaping, the nicotine pouches, there's a whole, energy drinks. There's a whole lot of other things that could contribute. But yes, I think it is important to also, rule out if the COVID vaccines had a role. But what about cancer? Well, here's the problem. And this is why I wish I had an answer, but this is why we might not have an answer. When COVID came out, I'd asked an oncologist, I go, I think this virus does have the potential of being oncogenic. And he said, "Oh, absolutely it does." COVID can, in some people, possibly, affect whether it's free radicals or affect DNA. COVID could, because again, we don't know how this was manipulated in the lab. If it was, this was a new beast, COVID. We had SARS, we had the virus before, but not to this degree. And so once I saw that people had lack of taste and smell for months, was it the inflammation from COVID or was it COVID hiding out? And if the virus stays with us and camps out, there could be that potential. And so we need to figure this out. And we need to be open to all theories. Because if we are starting to see cancer and an uptick in cancer in younger individuals, as much as I want to blame the food and the more obvious causes, is it because of COVID? Is it because of the vaccine? Is it a combination of the two? We need to know. Because if it is COVID, then we might have to relook at ways to vaccinate and prevent more COVID from coming our way. If it's the vaccine, then we need to know about that also and rechange our guidelines on that. I mean, I am all about let's ask the question. But unfortunately, we keep getting silenced by that. And so, when I got the vaccine, some of my conservative friends were like, oh, why are you doing that? Why would you get the vaccine? And I go, because I fear China more than Pfizer. The COVID virus, if it came out of that lab, whether it was manipulated or natural, and even if it wasn't manipulated, if it was a lab leak, the virus was not in its natural state because it was in an unnatural setting. And I don't know what the hell happened with that and why it was as dangerous as it was. And so I didn't trust where it came from. I didn't trust China more than Pfizer. Pfizer, I trusted Pfizer because they have a lot of good drugs. And so at the time, I felt that was the safest choice. And I'm glad. I don't regret getting the COVID vaccine at all. And then I promised you guys I would get the booster to tell you how it worked. It did work against COVID. I didn't get COVID, but I got a lot of side effects from it. I didn't like it. So I stopped getting any more vaccines, but that's a personal choice for me. But I'm glad I got it when I did, because unfortunately I was seen in the hospital. People were dying. There's no lie about that. COVID was killing. Was it killing the numbers that were being reported? We may never know in terms of the preciseness of the numbers, because unfortunately the CDC had recommended at the time, because we couldn't test. If you think it's COVID, put it on the death certificate. And they really should have done an Excel spreadsheet of somebody, coming in healthy, or a healthy person that got COVID and was succumbing to COVID versus somebody who had a heart attack that you think might have had COVID somehow related. I mean, those numbers should have been separated. But I don't want people who got the vaccine to freak out saying, oh no, maybe I got cancer, because I think COVID in and of itself could be oncogenic. And I didn't want COVID in me. I was more worried about COVID being in me than the vaccine. And even though for some of us it felt like a cold later on, and for a lot of us, thank God, that's what it feels like. I don't understand why some people still can't smell, why some people still can't taste. That's why we're seeing a lot of uptake in GI issues, because people are asking for spicy because they can't taste since COVID. And that's going to cause GI cancer and issues. So, you're not wrong to question, look, are we doing the right thing? Vaccinating or not vaccinating? You should ask that. We all should. And nobody in the public forum or medical forum should make you feel bad for having that question. But do I think all these cancer cases are related to that? I don't know. I do think also a contributing factor is a lot of people don't go to the doctor anymore and get exams, and so their cancer is found later. That's a shame. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.